Okay guys, we're going to graph the quadratic expression y minus x squared minus 4x minus 4 equals 0. The first question that it asks us is the related function. Put in standard form. Well, if we're going to put this in standard form, y equals is standard form. Now if we notice this, y is not by itself. So how do I move negative x squared, negative 4x, and minus 4 to the right hand side of the equal sign? The answer to that question is to do the opposite. The opposite of negative x squared is positive x squared. Opposite of negative 4x is positive 4x. The opposite of negative 4 is positive 4. So this equation written in standard form is y is equal to x squared plus 4x plus 4. Question 2 asks us to find a, b, and c of this equation. There's not a number in front of x squared, so we know that it's 1. b is equal to 4. c is equal to 4. Question 3 asks us to find the roots and plot on the coordinate plane. We're going to do this step later, so we'll come back to this. After we find a, b, and c, what we should do next is to find the axis of symmetry. The equation for the axis of symmetry is x is equal to the opposite of b over 2a. This equation should be memorized. So when I plug in x equals the opposite of b, b is 4, over 2 times a is 2 times 1, which is equal to negative 4 over 2. Negative 4 divided by 2 is equal to negative 2. So now that I have an axis of symmetry of x equals negative 2, I can go to negative 2 on my x-axis and draw my axis of symmetry, which works like my mirror. So I'm going to make a dotted line that goes all the way up and down. That's going to be the middle of my parabola. We're going to jump down to the chart. Since I know I'm going to begin at x equals negative 2, I'm going to plug that in first. My equation is x squared plus 4x plus 4, and I got that from step 1. So when I plug in negative 2, wherever I see x, I work it out to get my y value. Negative 2 squared is 4. 4 times negative 2 is negative 8 plus 4. 4 take away 8 is negative 4. Negative 4 plus 4 is equal to 0. So my first point is at negative 2, comma 0. I graph that right here and label my point. The first point on my graph, if I start with the axis of symmetry, this is the vertex. Remember that. We're going to come back and answer a question about it later. So if I'm going to plug in negative 2, the next question or number I plug in is negative 1. So wherever I see an x, I plug in negative 1. Negative 1 squared is 1. 4 times negative 1 is negative 4 plus 4. 1 take away 4 is negative 3 plus 4. Negative 3 plus 4 is equal to 1. So my second point that I plot is negative 1, comma 1. Label your point. The last point that I'm going to plug in is 0. 0 squared plus 4 times 0 plus 4. 0 squared is 0. 4 times 0 is 0. So 0 plus 0 plus 4 is equal to 4. The third point I plot is 0, comma 4. 0, comma 4 is right up here. Label your point. So I have half of my parabola. To get the other half, I'm going to reflect it across the axis of symmetry, or my mirror. 1 to the right, 1 to the left. This point is at negative 3, comma 1. This point is 2 to the right of the mirror, so to reflect it, I go 2 to the left, because it's symmetrical. and that point's at negative 4, 4, and there I have my graph. Now that I have my graph, all the questions that we skipped should be easy to answer. Question 3, what are the roots? Remember, the word roots means x-intercept. Look on the graph. The only point that crosses the x-axis is right here at negative 2, 0. Find the vertex. The vertex is the lowest point on my parabola, which is also negative 2, 0. Remember how I said this is a vertex? You can also get the answer from right here. Y-intercept. The y-intercept is the point that crosses the y-axis, and it crosses at the point 0, 4. Final question. Explain why you might need to find two more points on the same side of the axis of symmetry. Well, if I find 2 more points on the same side, that's how I can mirror it and find the other side. So the answer to question 7, so I can mirror the points.